Thank you for joining us on our podcast, The Conversation of Media Temple Global. And today we're having a conversation about how to resolve emerging conflicts. For those of you who know RIYOM local government has been in the news for a very, very long time due to attacks that have claimed multiple lives. And RIYOM local government is one beautiful area. It's the gateway to Plateau State. And there are features that identify RIYOM as one of a tourist heaven. If you're coming from Abuja or going down, that is where you have meandering roads and the Asop Falls, a beautiful sight to behold for tourism. If you talk about Plateau State, the RIYOM Rock becomes a symbol that represents anything to do with Plateau State. And they also have features of rocks that are spectacular and peculiar to the local government. That's talking about the basalt rocks in RIYOM. So all of this is a tourist heaven. Besides that, they are great farmers, very, very great farmers. I've had time to go to some locations and places in RIYOM local government. But with all of this, all is not well because of the attacks that have been taking place and people are not able to harness their potentials for the good of humanity. We have invited here a Right Honorable Timothy Danton, who was Deputy Speaker, Plateau State House Assembly, representing RIYOM in the Plateau State House Assembly. And also, presently, he's the liaison officer to the Executive Governor of Plateau State for RIYOM local government. You're welcome to our podcast.
Thank you very much. You're welcome. Viewers, you're welcome.
Well, we've given a background of the local government. What are your memories of the beauty, the things that you have in RIYOM, and how you did cohabit without these challenges?
Thank you so much for taking your time to x-ray the beauty and the God-given potentials that we have in RIYOM. We've mentioned the rock, the RIYOM rock, the basalt rock, and the Kakwang, and so many other tourist attractive areas in RIYOM. RIYOM is a land that Plateau State that makes a boundary with part of Kaduna State, and is at the maybe say it at the tip of the slope of Plateau, where you have in the upper part of RIYOM, the terrain is a little different with the lower part of RIYOM. If you've gone to the hinterland and the bushes down in RIYOM, in Bachi, part of it, you believe with me that going down, you experience some kind of a change in weather, and the same place you see that you have a very fertile, very, very vast valley, a fertile land for agriculture, and it's good, very peaceful and quiet place for human habitation. I think RIYOM local government is one of those places that is well blessed by natural, happenings in the area, coupled with the rocks and the trees and the natural environment that we have that is quite interesting and attractive. It's one of those very attractive places that we have. It will surprise you to know also that the next coal light that is being generated is in the local government. It's not in Barkinladi. A lot of people mistaken it. Yeah, the company Nesco have in Kura Falls is in Barkinladi, but where their turbines are, their machines are, is in Jeku, in your local government, Shunam, your local government. Because of the terrain, it gives that natural terrain for water to flow down and to be able to turn the turbines.
Okay. It's interesting. It sounded more like a paradise, but this is paradise lost. What happened? Because in days past, when I was in service, I used to do a program, Rural Watch, and I used to drive myself in my Beetle without security with my cameraman. We went to as far as Kura Falls. We went to Bachi. We went to different places. There was nothing would hinder you. No fear, no nothing, no security to accompany you. What happened that all this serenity was lost?
Yeah, I think it was also interesting to know that when I was coming up as a young man after my secondary school, and get myself into photography. And I would move from one community to the other on my bicycle, taking pictures. I could go to almost virtually all the Fulani houses that were within, and all the bushes around, and all the communities, all the villages. And even no matter how late in the night, I would take my trip, and then there would be no any fear, no any intimidation, because there was so much peace, and you would like moving around in those terrain at those times. What actually happened? What we actually cannot explain, because we've all have X-ray the beauty nature of RIYOM local government, and I think it becomes an attraction to some terrorists, certain people who feels they want to dislodge the original owners of the land, and so that they could take over the land. And to our watch, we're seeing this happening. Every day we keep losing one community to the other, and up to the situation that we find ourselves today.
But let us get it clear, because the narrative in the public space is that sometimes you hear people talk about, no, it's the farmer-header conflict. But now you're using the word terrorist, which some people may feel that is a strong word. What are the indications that these are terrorists?
I think it's very clear that the banditry we have in Nigeria, the Boko Haram we have in this country, are acts of terrorism. And it's not anything different from what we have here. Because the Fulani that have been there, like I told you earlier, we had a very good and harmonious relationship with them, that no one could ever think, you can't even think of anything, any conflict between us. But at some point, when we're coming up, we learned that some of the Fulani boys, few of them, went for a training in Borno. And when they came back, that is in the 90s, late 90s, they came back from such training, and some of them began to keep beers. And then we told that they are beginning to receive some drug trades, some things like that. Then that is when we begin to see those happenings. We begin to see some unnecessary provocations and killings and attacks, and some because in those days when you have conflicts like between the herders and farmers, clashes, there are chiefs or the local or the security personnel that are there, the police, will resolve the issue without any problem. Either to ask the Fulani who graze on land, whatever happens, to pay damage, or if a conflict between or maybe they cause a fight, they hit a cow or whatever, they ask the person to pay damages and things like that. And all those will be resolved amicably. But before we know, the new trend becomes that we see a people, militias, Fulanis, will come in a very large number. That's to tell you that it's not those who are in that community alone. They come from different places and constitute themselves into a heavy militia with heavy arms. And then they will attack the community, dislodge the community completely.
Well, a lot of people bring out today a notion that when something happens, people say it's ethnic profiling. That you call them a different name and certain things like that. You had lived with those. You have heard the story of those you had lived with quite good. Yeah. Are they not still there, or it's a set of new people entirely that have taken over where they were and unleashing this terror?
No, the Fulani that we lived with them, a lot of them are still there, but quite a number of them, when this attack started, they said goodbye to us. Those who were very good and felt they would not want to join into this trend, took a farewell and then leave to other places. I know quite a number of them that that moved to Bauchi. For example, one who was an IRK teacher, my father was a CRK teacher. They were more like family friends.
Yeah.
And then he came explained to us, look, the situation that we're having right now, and the plans that the terrorists are having against people is not what he can buy into it. So he would better take a leave. So he picked his family and all that he had and moved to Bauchi. And quite a number of them did that. Some of them who are actually good also decided to stay because they don't have anywhere to go. Like the present Harvey of Bachi, someone who has been very close to. In fact, the reason why a community like Bachi is still standing is because of some few of the Fulanis who are not agreeing to this situation, but they have suffered as a result of it. They have suffered as a result.
They're also victims.
They're also victims. They come and they will force them to do certain things that they don't want. Make them make some contributions towards the agenda. Sometimes, if they try to reveal this, or maybe who are behind this, they suffer because of it. So that's why I'm telling you that it's quite terrorism. It's not the Fulani who were there that started trouble, but some people who came from different places, pick some of the young men, when I trained them, and then came with that agenda to execute it. And they can dislodge people who originally stayed in that place so that they occupy the whole place. Yeah, there are quite a number of strangers among the Fulanis that are there right now.
Well, it's I don't want to speak about this, but I have to make reference because it's something that is very tragic that happened in the past. The demise of our distinguished senator and also member of the Plateau State House of Assembly as at that time. Since then, there have been panels, there have been discussions and conversations, government getting to the root of it. What are the results of these engagements?
That is what actually is that marvels some of us in this country, that you will have people sit down, plan an agenda that is evil against citizens of this country, executes it, and then we will have backup right from the national, right from the top.
The top of where? That's an allegation. The top of where?
I'm talking about the leadership of the country generally.
Okay.
In the federal government. In the federal government which we have, you have people who are in government, who are supporting and are giving strength to these people who are carrying this evil attack. Because if you don't have such, we will have, I don't think, when this Boko Haram and all this militia started, I don't think they were actually above the military that we have in this country. We have taken a stand to eliminate them, to stop their activities, we have been able to do that. But because we have also in the military, also in the police, and in the security agencies, people who are just camouflaging to be there, but they are aiding the activities of these evil people. That actually makes it strive. Coming down to the situation of that happened, that led to the demise of the late Senator Young Dato, who happened to be my elder brother, and then the Honorable Gyam Fulani, who was a member of State House of Assembly. It was just about the time that this thing started, and we were thinking it was like a joke. And a community called Mercy was attacked, and about over 26 people were bombed in a pastor's house. A lot of people were killed, and so there was the government had to organize for a mass burial of those who were burned in the house, and the corpses of those who were scattered all over. We happened to hear that mass burial. And actually that terrain, the community is in such a place that is in one very big valley, very lonely place, that vehicular movement to the community is very difficult. Vehicles have to park in a place, then you have to trek a long distance before you can reach that community. They are quite a remote community. So they took that risk and went down to that community. At the process of carrying the mass burial of those people who were killed, they went with enough security. They didn't know that the terrorists that came were all on the mountains, quite a number of them, because at that time we didn't envisage people coming from elsewhere. We thought it's the same Fulani that were there. And then the security that went there would have been able to content the Fulanis that were there.
If they were involved.
If they were the only ones. But it was at that point they discovered that it was hundreds of the militias that were all in the mountains, and they started shooting before they could run to their cars, to where their cars are. It was not possible. So everybody had to look for his way. That in the process of running through the hills, climb through gashes, it becomes difficult. Some of them couldn't make it. That's how we lost him. So that's to tell you that, to confirm to you the situation that we have a terrorist attackant. My surprise is that at that time we lost a serving senator,
a member of the House,
of Assembly who was serving. Yet there were no actions. Do you know that up to date, even that mass burial that was supposed to be done is not done? That community has not been visited. Nobody has been able to access that community up till date. Nothing has been done to even indigenous of those communities that ran away and couldn't go back to their community. That community was deserted, and Fulani have taken over that place to be their home.
But not those you know, but perhaps those who came in.
Of course, those who came in, some who they met also agreed to the position, and then they're also benefiting from the fight, because when they conquer, they take over the community, they also come and occupy the community.
So how many communities have been taken over in RIYOM? I understand that some are being renamed.
To my understanding, the communities that I know are up to about 56 communities.
In RIYOM alone?
In RIYOM alone. Communities that I know, these are communities that, one of the communities that I stayed in called was Ghana. My father was a pastor in that community. They had a very big church. At the point when they took over that community, they demolished everything. There's no building standing as it is right now. But of recent, we discovered that the Fulani are building on the foundations that were kept there. They're building the houses. It was to tell you that they have occupied and they have taken over. So they are occupying this place.
Well, from being a member of the House, a two-term member, you didn't complete the second term, and you will have better insight to this. I know there have been peace efforts and peace when there are security issues. You people meet at the local government or at the high level of the state, and to try to resolve these issues, to try to see how, yes, the bad people can be fished out from whichever side of the community, so that peace can be restored. What are you seeing from those efforts that have been made? And recently, the chief of staff came in and said, the army staff said, look, the defense staff, who said this, everybody should command, should take action, not waiting for command from elsewhere. Because we also had stories about people saying they pass information and they are nothing was done. But you have alluded to the fact that some communities are hard to reach.
Yeah, efforts, the government and the communities and all the stakeholders to see to a resolution that will bring about peace and to end the attacks on our people in the past. I cannot blame on anyone to say nothing has been done, but I think the effort have not been good enough. The effort have not been good enough, because if, all we're after is to see that there are no killings alone, and we do not bother about those who have been dislodged, those who do not have the means of livelihood anymore. I don't think the effort is good enough, because It has always been my concern, especially in the last administration where I was in the House of Assembly for 4 years. The first 4 years of Lalong administration in the state was like, yeah, he came to see how he can manage to see we have a peace, which is good. But effort were not put in place to see how our people that have been dislodged are given attention. For the past those 4 years that was there, he put in pressure, doing everything possible to see that these people are given attention, but to no avail. In fact, I made efforts to even move motions or maybe sponsor bills that will help to reduce the number of attacks and to also give attention to my people like the anti-land grabbing law, which I sponsored. I think that's the only good thing about the Lalong administration that I can say I'm happy and proud with. Because when I sponsored that bill to second reading, the governor also sent in a bill that was similar to the bill I was sponsoring. So, and as a house, we harmonize the bill and make it just one law, make it an executive bill. In our wisdom, we did that so that the government will take the credit
Okay.
and then we also have the asset of that bill, which we did, which the governor did. We have that bill existing right now, the anti-land grabbing law in the state.
Well, you are a PDP man. When you say that is the only thing, perhaps that is people could mean it to be political. But let's move away from that and look at the situation of the IDP, the displaced people. As a member, as a former member and liaison officer, what do you think? I remember at the point the vice president did make promise of a 10 billion naira. And taking care of the displaced is one thing because of the social implications. Where are they? What are they doing? How are their livelihoods now?
Now, actually, the plight of the displaced persons in RIYOM is one of the major concerns that we have. You could have in your south, place like Giro, where was a deserted place also, an old mining site. You have a whole community from Rakwen move to that place. You know, those people moved from a place where they are used to. They have farming and they have very good. The traditional farming method, is being changed to another way of life that has caused them so much. You have in Anguldi a lot of them roaming about from Shonong, from Kasa, from Jahai, and name the communities where those communities do not exist as it is right now. People had to move to find where they could stay. Our tradition looks, we do not have that tradition of going to stay in an IDP camp for a very long time and they're expecting that we'll be cared for. But people would rather prefer to look for a relative's house. And even if you are 10 of you, you go and be managing in one room and find a means of living. And that's the plight of the IDPs, especially from you. If there's an attack, the whole community is moved out. You will see, I'm sure you must have been seeing in video pictures of people moving from Jol, from other places. They will move. But if they come to the IDP camp, just give them 2 days, you won't see anybody there again. You find houses of relatives where they will stay in rather than exposing themselves to stay in an IDP camp. And after a short while, if it's camp, you see them going back again to their homes. Even if the houses are burned down, see them trying to raise their houses. But we have not have any, good humanitarian service that address the issue of resettlement of our people. And that is why we're still having a lot of situations and issues as it is right now. There are a lot of communities that If people don't have anything to say, they will go back and rebuild. For you to build a house now, you know how much it costs. And someone told us of someone who's been displaced and does not have any work he does in town. He's just roaming about trying to fit. So is that the kind of person that will go back to start molding blocks and build a house?
Would you subscribe
Even when
to?
the communities are free now, but for you to go back and rebuild. So when we had the pronouncement in the last administration of the vice president, the former vice president, 10 billion, some of us rejoiced over it, and we felt that this is a hope for us because 10 billion at that time would have been able to build a lot of communities. So if it's just to assist them with building materials, we say go back and rebuild, and we provide some security for you, go back and rebuild. That would have helped. But we keep pursuing that money, keep pursuing it until the administration ends. And up till now, we've not seen anything.
Well, government is a continuum. Are there attempts somewhere in some of those communities for people to go back and then perhaps they're also chased away or denied? Because in the last, some years back, we did a production and we saw people after Bachi. I can't remember the name of the community. People started rebuilding. Are they still there, or people are chased away after they have started making efforts to go back?
You know, the occurrence has been there repeatedly. Today, people will go back. After a while, it chase them away. They will still run back. Shalom, for instance, has been a place that has suffered that so much. Yeah, but as we're speaking right now, there are people in Shalom, but just very few, especially during this rainy season. They will go back home and try to cultivate their farms. Some of the communities actually, people try to access back, especially during the rainy season. They go back to cultivate the farms, and then when they harvest their crops, because they don't have a place to stay, most of them you will see that they live in either in the primary school that is left there, or any building that is existing, that's still standing.
With all this happening, and Nigerian security agencies are making their effort, and there's this cry for a state police and perhaps joint civilian task force to be embedded in the security architecture, as we do have in the northeast and some other places, but it's not practiced here. Would you subscribe to state police as a measure to beef up security? Though the federal government has come up with for forest guards.
My concern about the security generally is that if you have security personnel who understand the terrain and understand the history, the situation, the difficulties you're passing through, I think they will be able to provide better result than bringing somebody from afar, this type who doesn't understand the culture, doesn't understand the situation as it is. Before he could understand it, it would have been late. And then the situation of state police does not mean that, or creation of state police does not mean that the state governors do not have right to provide some security outfits, like we have the Operation Rainbow in Plateau, we have them in all other states. But I understand that the funding of this security outfit is a major problem, a major concern of the state governments. And that is why the cry for the state police is, that loud. So that the resources that are being sent to sponsor the police force in this country, if it's shared into two, and half of it goes to the state to support the security outfits that we have in the state, then we can say that we have state police. And then Operation Rainbow, instead of having a handful of people that will not be able to, to meet up with the challenges that we have in the state, we have a quite number. Then we have, even from the local governments, we have security outfits that, in a large number, that will be able to meet up with the military or whichever federal outfit that we have. And then they will be able to lead them to understand the terrain, to know how to navigate in some of those difficult terrains. I think that is the picture of the state police I'm seeing that will bring a solution to some of these issues we have in the locality.
Well, for the people, for the local administration there, for the state government, it's a story of despair. It's a story of hopelessness. It's a story of would tomorrow come? Because I spoke with somebody who said almost on a daily basis they have to go and borrow. But do you see hope in the horizon, given the conversations that have been going on in trying to rejig the country's security architecture and also going with the non-kinetic and reconciliation efforts?
I don't know. In this country, Nigeria, we are blessed. In the first place, if Nigerians will respect the God-given resources that we have in this country, and see that we have a need to rather help government to channel these resources into developing the country to compete with other countries in the world, rather than channeling our resources into security situations like what we're having right now. I think that would be better for us as a country. And I think the agitations of those members of the Boko Haram, of some of the bandits who feels that there has not been good governance and that is why they're doing what they're doing. If they will give a peace, if they will give a chance to whichever government, that resources that are being channeled into safeguarding life or maybe into insecurity, be channeled into some development of the country, I think we'll have a better country that everybody will enjoy. Yeah, if because insecurity is not the only issue we have in this country. If as a country we had to go borrowing, we had to go, you know, into some blank because we do not have enough resources to be able to meet up getting the gadgets that we need to fight the insecurity. If that is said to be, I will believe that because we have other issues that need to be addressed. We have the issues of lack of development in the state. Even though, if I can say, if we can tell the truth, that some of our leaders have not actually lived to expectation. We have had a situation where people stole billions of dollars from this country, you know, go to heights outside. If all those resources that have been stolen are brought back, I'm sure it will address all these issues without us going into borrowing money, without going into looking elsewhere to seek for help for this country to survive.
On that note, we want to thank you for finding time to be here and on the conversation podcast. And we look forward to peace, not just only in RIYOM, but in Plateau State entirely. And we want people to be alert. And also, if you see something, you say something so that you pass information appropriately so that action could be taken at different levels. Once again, thank you.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate this opportunity you've given me to be able to express myself and to tell our story as people of RIYOM and what we are passing through. Thank you so much.
See you on the next edition of our podcast, The Conversation. I remain yours sincerely, Yakubu Tadi.